he even exalted himself as high as the Prince of Hosts. Whoa, who's that? Who's the Prince of Hosts? The Lord, strong and mighty. The Lord, mighty in battle. He exalted himself as high as the Prince of Hosts. Who else tried to exalt themselves as high as God? Who else tried to do that? Satan. So who was driving Antiochus Epiphanes? Satan. Satan was himself. And by him, the daily sacrifices were taken away. Now, this really, that verse, that little segment of the verse should really just start, alarm bells should be going off in your mind right about now. Because that should remind you of somebody we already talked about. Who did we talk about? Cain. He did the exact same thing with Cain. What did Cain do? Cain stopped giving the proper sacrifices. Did he give sacrifices? Yes. Did he give the right one? No. What did Antiochus do? He stopped Israel when he got into the glorious land from giving the proper sacrifices. Even though they were in unbelief, they were still doing the proper sacrifices, even though it wasn't helping them. But just as Satan did with Cain, he stopped Israel now from doing the exact same thing. You see, friends, what is Satan after? Right here. To exalt himself to be as high as the Lord of hosts. I will be like the Most High. And the place of his, who's the his? The Prince of Hosts. It's God's sanctuary. What is that? The temple. This was the second temple, not the first temple, not Solomon's temple. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon burned that one to the ground. This is the temple where Zerubbabel and Joshua and Nehemiah and Ezra and all those folks came back and they built that temple. That's the one that they're talking about. Was cast down. Now, look at this carefully. I'm going to clear the board. Because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices. Whew, friends, you're talking about a prophecy here that blows the mind. Do you understand what God just said? Now, listen carefully. Because why did all of this happen? God now gives you the reason why he allowed Antiochus Epiphanes to come into the Holy Land and desecrate his temple. Before I read this to you, I want to show you how the Jews were giving the daily sacrifices, what they actually thought about the daily sacrifices. Even though you and I, if we would have just been looking, if we would have been there, would have been looking at the ceremonies and seeing exactly what they were doing, you would have thought that they were doing it right. But listen to God. Think church, okay? People going to church. All you see is them showing up, clapping their hands, singing the songs, but you don't see inside. God's going to pull back the curtain to show you exactly what they thought about the sacrifices. And because of that transgression, God allowed all this to happen. All right. This, friends, is Bible study. Okay. Let's go to Malachi. It's in other books, but boy, nobody talks about it like Malachi. All right. Last book, because folks, this was happening after Malachi said what he said. All right. So Malachi starts pointing it out. And in between the New Testament and the Old Testament, that's when this took place. Okay, so this is that intertestament time period, that 400 and something years between when Malachi wrote this book and when John the Baptist came on the scene. It was about 420, 430 years, something like that. All right. Now, look at this, folks. This is what God is talking about. So God said something over in the book of Daniel. He explains the transgression over in the book of Malachi. So you don't have to guess at what they did because God wrote it down for you. The burden of the word of the Lord. Now, anytime you start seeing this right here, it's not good. You don't want to be seeing that in connection with God and you because it's not going to end well. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel. So God have a problem now with Israel. I have loved you, says the Lord, yet you say, in what way you loved us? Was Esau Jacob's brother, says the Lord? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? The answer to that is, of course he was. Yet Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. And laid waste his mountains and his heritage and the jackals of the wilderness. So wait a minute. Why would God do something like that? I don't have time to explain that, but it has something to do with God does whatever he wants to do. All right. Thus says the Lord of hosts. He built, now I'm going to tear down and all this good stuff. Now, here's the problem. Here's where God began to talk about the transgression that Israel did. A son honors his father, a servant his master. If I am a father, that is a father of the nation, not the individual Jew. He was never the father of an individual Jew. He was always the father of Israel, the nation. If then I'm a father, where's my honor? And if I am a master, where's my reverence, says the Lord of hosts. To who? You priests. So the first judgment and burden on the priests was what? This right here. They despised God. So what? Wait a minute, man. The priests despised God? Yes. Now, before you just go thinking this is just some simple pastor related thing, please don't do that. Don't put our time period into this book. It has nothing to do with us, nothing to do with the church whatsoever. He's talking about what he set up for the nation of Israel. The priests were everything in the nation. They judged everything. They were the home inspectors, health inspectors. They were the doctors. You couldn't declare yourself cleansed from some disease and have fellowship with back into the nation unless the priest pronounced you clean. So you couldn't do anything without the priest. The priest represented Jesus Christ, friends. To you priests, the priests despised the name of God. They were supposed to be teaching the people about God, but yet They despised him. So how in the world, and what were they teaching the people? They were teaching the people to despise the name of God. And guess what the people did? They despised the name of God. So be careful, friends. If you go out there and listen to people who are misquoting the book, you know what you're going to do? You're going to start misquoting the book. And you can't live beyond what you believe. Make sure you're sticking with the book, not some teacher, not me. You stick with this book. Yet you say, in what way? Didn't even know. Go back to Ephesians. Why didn't they know? Their minds was futile, right? Their understanding was darkened. They had no life in them. They were ignorant. They were blind. Go back to Ephesians. That's why they didn't know. So the Bible explained to us why they didn't know.